So in the spirit of full disclosure, I did make these slides last night. Thank you, Ivar and Lily, for joining me in the dance party. Okay, so what is Pandora Bots or Pandora Bot? I think that we're the world's oldest and largest platform for building chatbots, by the numbers at least, although I'm not sure because not everything's public. The platform started in 2002. Since then, we've had 235,000 developers register. They've built over 300,000 chatbots. They usually have about 300 million interactions a year, so we've facilitated 3 billion interactions between bots hosted on our platform and human end users. And we used to add about 1,000 or 2,000 developers every month. Now we're at more like 2,500 or over since F8. So we were created to support an open standard, which is called Artificial Intelligence Markup Language. It is a simple scripting language that uses pattern matching. It works today. It's old, but it works in production for building bots. And the reason that we've supported it is that it's really easy for non-programmers to learn. So one of the first things that we learned is what Oren said. Hello, 100% right. Writers build better chatbots than developers. I make this joke a lot, but software has a really hard time understanding natural language, and developers also have a really hard time understanding natural language. No offense. So it's easy, even if you don't have a programming background, to learn the language. And this really puts the content creators in control of the bot, which is critical, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. AML is also flexible and extensible via third-party APIs. It's not a black box. We're not using machine learning, which is also to generate outputs, which is also critical for a brand. And like I said, it works in production. I've yet to see something that works better in production, but I'm always open to seeing those examples in bots if anyone has them. So 2,500 developers every month, that's a lot. What are they doing? Where are these bots? Sadly, most of them are crap bots. Building a good bot is hard. It's hard for all the problems that we already know about, but I also think it's more a question of motivation than anything else. You have to understand that this is going to be a process, you have to understand the steps involved, and you have to really commit to building something up and then understanding that whatever you built and whatever you thought people were going to say to your bot is totally different than what they do say, and you have to iterate. It's a kind of a piece of dynamic content. And even if it's an FAQ bot, new words enter the language every day. So these are things that need constant care and feeding. So we help companies build more complex bot applications, though our platform is largely DIY, and that's how most people use it, including some large companies who have the technical resources and the motivation to learn. Solving real customer problems, I know we talked about this, but I encourage everybody in this room who's a developer to find a customer problem and try to define narrow success metrics and then build something small and keep going. Consulting services projects, which is an hourly model, is also a really good way to bootstrap platform development. Okay, so we're here to talk about ROI from the enterprise perspective, which is return on investment, not rodents of unusual size. Okay, so when you're running a DIY platform where anybody can sign up and it's free, it's pretty much a chaotic free-for-all, and people build really weird stuff. And sometimes the community delights you because they come up with things that you never would have thought of. I didn't know what Twitch TV was. To be honest, I still don't really know what it is. But that's very popular. People like to build bots that sit on their channel and insult their friends while their friends watch them play video games. That makes sense. We had a feminist hacker group who hacked into Hello Barbie and hooked up the Pandora Bot's platform to make Barbie say what they wanted. I hope you didn't get any. And unfortunately, sex robots, lots of sex robots. People build them, we shut them down. We debated starting a shell company, but we like working with brands, so we're kind of staying away from that. Though, speaking of monetization, there is money there for anyone who wants to go there. But yeah, in the defense of these sex robot developers, consumers are way, way creepier. If you've ever looked at your chat logs, if you deployed a bot, more than 50% of people that talk to bots try to have sex with them. Or sometimes it's a little more highbrow. It's like an emotional connection. They try to, be your girlfriend. But it gets pretty dirty pretty quickly. We have very extensive open source profanity filters on GitHub, which you can go help yourself. Okay, so anyway, the horizontal free-for-all is great. You see weird things, but I always get asked, what are the most popular use cases? And the two most popular, especially from an enterprise value perspective, that have emerged are customer care and customer engagement. So customer care is it can be anything from FAQ and support to sort of more real-time alerts and delivery of services. And customer engagement is generally marketing, advertising, building that brand relationship over time. So customer care is, on the surface, seemingly the most popular. It's the easiest for company stakeholders to understand because you can draw a straight line to ROI, right? It's like if we can cut the amount of traffic on our human agents by X%, we save X dollars. Great, I can tell that to my boss, and that's a valid argument. We can measure that. Yay. But actually, customer care is a little bit of a false promise. We've seen a lot of problems. One is that you can take a set of company FAQ and you can build a bot and you can put it out there and people will ask none of the questions, even if they were, and it's not just the versions of the questions, just completely different questions. That's happened. But I think the two biggest barriers are if something bad happens to you, you like to tell a really long story about everything that went wrong. It's like, I was running really late, and I was in a fight with my husband, and blah, 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 and then this happened, and then, I didn't get your flight, and you were so horrible, and so that's really hard for a bot to parse. And the other thing is, when something bad happens, you want special treatment, and you want somebody to move mountains for you, which sometimes requires a human touch. So it works really well in those cases where you get the same questions over and over again. We have a lot of companies where it takes just 5 minutes to diagnose an issue and greet the user, and shaving 1 minute off of that time is actually millions of dollars of savings. So those are good goals to have in this vertical. Customer engagement, I think, is a more sort of creative space, more exciting, lots of potential, but the ROIs are less tangible here. You're building a relationship by reaching consumers on the channels where they already are, and it's a one-to-one conversation. You can continue it, but how do you measure, if you delighted the users, you can't see if they're smiling. Well, maybe some phones with vertical facing cameras can see it. And you get chat data, which is great. It's really analytics gold, but again, how much can you leverage it? How can you improve your bot? What kind of actions can you drive in real time? You can provide services and drive purchases. So this, in my opinion, is where the real value is today in terms of monetization from developers and platforms who are trying to work with enterprises, is how can you help them with the customer communication, whether it's on the care side or on the engagement side. So we work both directly with brands and with agencies. So I'm going to talk about what that process is like. Agencies are really well positioned to work with brands because they have existing client relationships. And a lot of brands are really uncomfortable. It's a new space. They don't know what's going on. And your point of entry is not going to really be your superior technology. It's going to be your relationship. On the flip side, I think a lot of brands, or a lot of the early bots on Facebook Messenger that were brand built were built by people who didn't understand bots very well. So I think there's a happy medium where you can work together. Agencies also have the great creative talent, and a lot of them are really technically savvy, so they can build those sort of button-driven bots and take advantage of the experience, although something with free-form text is a little bit harder. Okay, so we see good agency behavior and bad agency behavior. This is more for the bot platforms and developers out there. So every agency wants to know how they can build bots for their clients. Right now, we get about 1 inbound a day. And a lot of them are, wanting to understand, like, hey, they're looking for a free hour lesson in this technology. What are your models? What do you charge? Okay, we can do all that in-house. We're going to go to our client and do this. Or they want to subcontract with you, and they get your code, and they're doubling it or tripling it to their client. And it can be really hard when they are the middleman, because you're basically communicating on all of the different creative on the bot. And sometimes agencies are just pitching, so they don't actually have the client closed yet, so you do all this work, and it does. But I mean, you have to set this out up front. That's the thing. And again, this is like for bot developers who are working, and we'll have a positive slide on good agency behavior. Oh yeah, so here are some sad stories. So this is sad epic fail number 1. This happened recently. A company who shall not be named, but they're a bunch of turkeys, and they make turkeys and sell them. So they wanted to do a Thanksgiving bot on Facebook Messenger. And they actually have a hotline, a call center, where people call in and ask questions about turkey. Like, how long do I cook this for? It's like X pounds. Like, how can I deep fry this? I don't know. I don't know what goes on in the hotline. But anyway, so we had an agency, and we had built a prototype with them. We had a contract. It was signed by one person. It was waiting to be signed by the CMO. And then at the last minute, they flipped and they said, hey, we actually, one of our former employees just left to go to a startup, and they're going to build everything for free. So sorry, guys, which happens a lot. In terms of startups offering to do things for free, there's a really big price difference in what people are charging to build bots for brands. But anyway, this is okay, I think, because it's pretty easy to get a short lifecycle campaign-based bot onto a messaging platform like Facebook that's totally button-driven. It's just a short one-off experience. And that's great, and campaigns are awesome, but you're not actually driving lasting value for the brand. And you're not creating any recurring revenue for yourself either, because it's finite. Sad epic fail number 2. So this one gets back to what we were talking about earlier with the black box issue of machine learning and why it's so important for scripting languages to be accessible to creatives. This was many, many years ago. We were working with a very large credit card company, and they had a ton of data, and they didn't want to do anything, and it wasn't an agency, so they handed the data over to us and said, build us a bot that's fully conversational, can answer all these questions, can chat. So we did it. We built the bot. We just took their data. We checked in with them, but we mostly built it and handed it over. And it was great. It was super conversational. It worked. It had so many outputs. And that ended up being a problem. It had too many outputs. And they couldn't go in and test all of the outputs. And every single output had to go through about 10 levels of approval at that company. And we just would get to the top, and then feedback would get kicked back down, and then go back up. And it eventually just died. It just died. So if you, as a developer, you probably would rather have an agency in that role. But it's also very difficult if you have to communicate, here's our super important branded content, the agency needs to approve it needs to come to you, back and forth, so that's kind of gets to the middleman problem. All right, let's change to a positive note. Good agency behavior. So we do work with agencies. We've been working for 3 years now with a top 10 global conglomerate. And we have a lot of agencies who are DIY on our platform as well. If you form a partnership and you work really closely together, things can go very, very well. So in this particular case with our partner, we sent people to their offices. They actually created a dedicated team, which is now a subsidiary, who we trained on our platform, did several projects with. They hired developers and writers. The writers learned the platform and we're building better bots, so now all the writers are developers and they're just writing everything in a text editor. They don't even need a UI, which is great. And then you're in this position where you have this team who can do the work, who can do the creative work, and you have a giant agency that can actually resell to their entire portfolio. So that's the time, I think, when it's good to leverage those existing relationships, when you've had a lot of learnings and a lot of work. Okay, so we'll talk about some actual case studies or examples. So on the retail side, this is on my mind because it's very recent. We launched very recently on Kik with a retailer. This was a case where we were working directly with the brand. So I'll just mention sort of what we think about in terms of success metrics and what the brand thinks about as the ROI, not ROUS. So in addition to all of the standards, like how many people are talking to it, how long are they talking to it, how many times does the bot have a bad answer, we're tracking URLs. So this bot, it's for a teen audience. We've got a lot of content in there. We're tracking, when it goes to the website, and we can actually track the user through to the end of the purchase. So that's pretty straightforward. We've also got a lot of different content paths, so we're A/B testing what content resonates most, actually drives purchases, and we can iterate that on the fly, which is great, because when you're working with a big brand, they have a team of a lot of developers, but like making a change to their app or their website is a Herculean process. But a bot is really excited for them because they can throw something out there, change it really quickly. And we have a user feedback section of the bot, so they can actually hear directly from their users, which is pretty valuable and rare and new. We're measuring how the bot is performing against their native app. So most retailers don't see any app downloads. I mean, it's a problem for the whole industry. It's why the market is here, but retail especially, downloads are really low. So this is an opportunity for them to see more traffic to the bot in the first month, more users than have potentially downloaded their app in a year, which is pretty meaningful. And we're also looking at it against other social channels. So we're in a situation that we like to see where once you kind of do one bot with a brand and you have a process in place and they bring the right team. We had a roughly 10-person team at this company, so they dedicated copywriters, like people in charge of brand voice, designers, so having that team is really important. But once that team is in place and they know what they're doing, everyone wants more bots. So how can we build more for campaigns? You start talking about, hey, what can you do for customer care? They want to go on more channels so we can benchmark performance on Kik versus Facebook. And then there are the intangibles, which is really about the branded experience. So this brand is really, really awesome. It's a clothing brand and they don't Photoshop their models. So the bot for them was an opportunity to really bond with their users on a new level. So there's a whole, it supports conversations about body image and positive body image. And I think, as a young teen, it's not just about the product, it's about really bonding with the bot and the brand. Oh, I don't have this summary. Okay, so this one, we released in June. It's for Yamato Transport, which is the largest shipping company in Japan. Oh, you're laughing.
It's a heavyweight application for bots.
It is. Yeah. So we launched this in June on Line Messenger, which is the most popular messaging platform in Japan. It was about a 1-month build, but then you add 2 months of customer communication, and you actually have to send people on site because you're integrating with their existing infrastructure and back-end systems. So this was really interesting. They actually had a customer mandate from their users online. So probably most of you are familiar with Line, but basically a brand can have friends online and they have an official account and can chat with them. So their customers were constantly asking them, like, hey, why can't we just track packages online the way that we can talk to our friends? You know, it's really annoying to look up a package on your website. I have to go find my tracking number and my email. I have to go log into your website. I have to find like the right tab and where to input all of those numbers and get the answer. So yeah, this was a rare case of not like guessing what your customer might want to see, but really having that mandate. So we built this bot, and it's fully natural language processing. We do have a menu, but we're not using buttons. And people actually don't use buttons online. They text freeform chat. So you can tell the bot your tracking number and figure out where your package is. You can also change delivery dates and locations. You can get a price quote, and you can get basic FAQ answered. So we do use machine learning for some things. Our segmenter uses machine learning. There are great use cases for machine learning, and then great use cases for fully scripted. And this is another one where we're in phase 2 now. We're adding a lot more functionality, but it's been super successful. So in the first month, they added a few 100,000 new users to their account, millions of conversations per month, and my mouth just got dry. And people are calling it the God bot on Twitter in Japan because they just ask the question and they get an answer, and it feels like magic. Yes, thank you. So my favorite thing about this project is actually how we worked out the payment structure. On the developer tier, in terms of monetization, we're looking at a price per usage. So there's API limits and subscription fees on top of the free service. For this model, they said, we don't want to be penalized for being popular. And if it takes a really long time to get a goal done, no, I'll stick with this. Then it's your bad NLP, right, if the bot doesn't understand. So we want to actually measure if the customer comes in with a goal, did we accomplish that goal? So that's what we did. We built in success metrics into the system where the customer is coming in with a job that they want to accomplish. Maybe it's to find out where their package is, maybe it's to change the delivery date, and that takes some customers 2 interactions, and it takes some customers 10 interactions, because some people are like, hi, how's your day? Where's my package? Okay, thank you. So we're just tracking when the goal is completed and charging based on completed goals. Yeah. Oh, there. Okay, so yeah, like I said, a lot of people think that we're a startup, but we're actually a dinosaur, a spry dinosaur. I might not look like a dinosaur, but we were talking last night about where we were in 1999. And I was like, yeah, 1999, I was really stressed out about Y2K. I was worried that the world was about to end. And I was worried that the world was going to end before I kissed a boy, because I just turned 13. So I thought I would end by showing you guys something that I did 2 years later at age 15. By popular demand, the Pocahontas bot. If you actually have Flash working on your computer, her hair blows in the wind. She's still up. So Pandora Bots, like I said, it was originally created in support of an open standard to try to enable anyone to build a bot. My dad met the inventor of AML at a nonprofit booth at an AI conference and kind of pulled him out and said, hey, I'd love to just support your language and make this system where anybody can build this. It's going to be huge, like Second Life is coming, virtual reality. And so they did it, but they wanted to prove that the language was easy enough for anybody to learn, even if they didn't have a big programming background. I have a little programming background. I think we were also debating last night if being forced to write Lisp programs when you're 6 years old is child abuse or not. But anyway, I think it served me okay. So they said, hey, you're the first bot developer on the platform. We want to make sure that a 15-year-old girl can get into this. And I realized I think they were trying to incentivize me and make me think that it was cool by creating a bot, beauty contest or like Diva Bot. I don't know. That's like how they decided to get a 15-year-old excited about building the bot, and then I was crowned the first Diva Bot winner. But anyway, yeah, and it also has a nice example of monetization models circa 2002. Let's not do that. Questions? This is a screenshot. I think I can.
Yeah, do we have one or two questions? I let this run a little long. So I have the whole program, I keep asking people questions, so we're running a little behind. But like, we can take 2 questions. Is that okay?
No questions. Mic drop.
I'd be curious what, if any, lessons you take from having tried to make the ALP the open standard, since it seems likely that that'll come around again, or is coming around again now, if words one as that happens.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because AML is very much alive and well. I think people hate it for a lot of reasons. Like, one, why haven't we invented something that works better in production? 2, it's XML based, which is really annoying. Rive script is another scripting language that's basically a fork of AML that's like a markdown. It takes out the XML tags. Uh-oh, I think it's here. And there have been scripting languages created, like ChatScript is an answer to everything that's wrong with AML. But it still underlies a lot of technology today, and a lot of people actually don't like to admit that, which is when you open source something, great. There was a robot recently on CNN that Charlie Rose was interviewing, and the robot started hitting on him. And the creators of the robot were like, hey, this is like, we've had a neural net. If I had $1 million for every time a startup said, we've got a neural net, I would just retire. But anyway, so our chief science officer recognized it as one of the answers he had scripted in our chatbot from 15 years ago. And that happens all the time. The bot is called Alice. It was the inspiration, according to Spike Jonze, for the movie Her, and it is everywhere. It is open source. It handles chit chat, so you can go grab that. And we've also seen AML implemented at large companies. So we're providing an interpreter as a service and hosting platform as a service. But we've also open sourced interpreters. You can roll your own interpreter if you really know what you're doing and really want to invest in it. So we've seen AML implemented without us at all in Fortune 500s. We've seen it implemented in other platforms. So yeah, I think it's tough. I don't think we're going to see standards come together, though that would be awesome. But it's definitely something we're interested and passionate about and have believed is very important for a long time.
From your experience working with enterprises, building customer support bots, how are you seeing the transition from a bot to a human with context, with personalization? Because many times when I call in to a bank, they take me to the IVR process. More often than not, I'm yelling, like, just get me to a human being. I want to get to a human being, solve the problem, get down, and keep moving. So how are you seeing brands or enterprises handle the transition from a bot to a human being and then potentially back to a bot again?
It's usually a very bespoke solution, especially because a lot of those brands have what I was referring to loosely as existing infrastructure. So they probably already have like a live chat system, a CRM system, a ticketing system. And that's one of the biggest challenges with enterprise projects, because like when you do a consulting project in a vertical like the shipping thing, it's pretty easy to resell. Like you've got the model down, you can rebuild that, but the challenge is actually going on site and making it work with what they already have and helping them integrate. In some cases, they don't even have APIs. So it really just depends. It's kind of like a case-by-case solution for the enterprise right now if you're doing something that's actually complicated but providing like serious lasting value and really getting into and becoming part of their communication stack.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.